Hi, I'm Larry Cooperman. I'm Director of Business Development at Nightdive Studios.
And I'm Stephen Kick, and I am the CEO of Nightdive Studios.
So can we talk about a little game called Quake? It only redefined like online first-person shooters like for a generation. How did you guys get this license? How did this happen?
So first of all, we are the developer of the game. We're the developer of the current version, the recent version that just came out. We worked alongside the folks over at id on that project. But just to be very, very clear, the license for the game, all the rights to the game belong to Bethesda Software. id Software, Bethesda. So we're just the developers in the room. And the answer to how we got it is it's our second project, working alongside the team there. The first one was Doom 64.
Talk about the pressure, because Quake has a huge community, like a huge community of much older gamers, a lot of Gen X gamers, because it was one of their first games they played online. There are a lot of different versions of Quake and Quake servers and, certain Quake world stuff. Like, was some of the pressure to like try to include as much as you could to get that authentic Quake experience to make as many people happy as you possibly could?
It was, and there was a lot of pressure on that. We were very, very aware of what the expectations of the community were going to be around the game. I would like to say that as close as is possible with a modern, a modern reimagining of a classic game, the response has been very, very positive. I didn't know what to say this morning when I saw a tweet from John Romero praising the work that had been done on that. So if it's good enough for him, I guess it's good enough. It meets the standards.
Yeah, we're definitely no stranger towards that type of pressure either. We've had a lot of experience dealing with games that mean a lot to a lot of different people for different reasons. And we've got a lot of experience bringing those back and dealing with the feedback, whether it be negative or positive. And we pretty much put everything we had into Quake to make sure it was as authentic as possible. It still felt the same, but at the same time, still kind of felt like a new game, a new experience that people could rediscover all over again.
Certainly for the people that are playing it, on the consoles now, it's something, it opened up the game to a new audience.
And it's still like we've talked about this before, Stephen, about like people like, well, you're using a controller and that's blasphemy for Quake. You can't use a controller, it has to be keyboard or mouse. That's unbelievable that you did that. Or the people that complain that you fixed a glitch in Turok and you're like, well, you thought it was a glitch. We'll put it back in. You know what I mean? Like, so it is extremely hard to meet everyone's expectations, especially with remakes and remasters.
One of the things that we're really lucky about, and one of the reasons that I think has contributed to our success in doing that, and not only to our success in terms of how people how the media looks at the Nightdive games, but also how the fan base looks, is we've recruited a lot of our developers come from people that have had long backgrounds in the community and are sensitive to the issues that people find.
We're so lucky, in fact, that even some of the stuff they do in our own games surprise me. Like, for instance, there's a level in Quake that had its whole front end pretty much chopped off to be able to fit within the base constraints or the size constraints from the original, and they added that back in, and I didn't even know that until somebody tweeted about it. So they're good. They're really good at what they do.
Yeah, like sometimes you even have that department that puts on their detective hat. Was this a case? Because did you have to go back in time to, look at all this stuff, the source code, what they did, certain things that were in the game at the time that you decided to keep in or fix?
There was a lot of that, but again, I also do want to emphasize how much of this was a joint effort. We were lucky enough to work with some of the. I mean, certainly it's been an honor of mine to have worked alongside Kevin Cloud. Whose name I first saw on Wolfenstein 3D. So we were able to leverage a lot of that, and we benefited a lot from having some of the, shall I say, OGs, from that universe involved in recreating the game. The guys over at Machine Games were also just fantastic to work with.
Yeah, right before this meeting, actually, I was playing the new expansion. Yeah, they did a phenomenal job.
There was an interesting take on a certain version of Quake World, or lack thereof Quake World, or something that wasn't included that people were kind of, I want to say, grumbling about. Like, just, everyone can find something to complain about in a game, but what was their decision behind that?
So some of the decisions were not made were not made at the Nightdive level. I just want to be really clear about that. Again, we were the developer of it, but everything that was included in the game, that was included in this version of it, went through the due diligence procedure to make sure that everything had been authorized.
You guys did gyro aiming on the Switch as well? Did you guys do that as well?
Yes.
Like, what was it like? Because that's actually being received quite well for the Quake game, which is hilarious. Well, when did you guys decide to implement those types of controls? Because that's something that usually devs just kind of be like, no, not doing that. Just going to do regular Joy-Cons, not gyro aiming. Forget it.
I was going to say that was something that people really first saw coming up, with our Turok games.
Oh yeah, Turok was great. It was a great remaster. That was the one thing, you were fixing some stuff and people complained about it because they're like, no, I can't cheat, and you're like, well, we'll fix it.
Yeah. So to your earlier point, it's like we want to please as many people as we can, and generally the people that we upset the most are speedrunners, because they rely on those bugs and those glitches to get their world record times, and it's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
How well did Bethesda maintain, because it's a big company, right? So they have all the information you need for that IP and that license. Like, did they have everything, or did you have to go even deeper to beyond what they had in their vault?
They pretty much had everything, and it was again a pleasure. One of the things that I don't know how much experience you've had in working with the people over at Bethesda, but you run into people all the time there, and you ask them, how long have you been with the company, and they'll tell you 25 years. So there was not only the archives in the way that you might think of it, but in terms of historical legacy, in terms of preserving that. You're talking with some of the people that were there from the very beginning.
You guys also added it's a fourth episode from 5 years ago, a fifth episode that's completely new. Was that something that you mentioned it a little bit? Was that in the original game, or is that something that you guys added as a developer?
That's something that Machine Games developed. Actually, the first chapter, the name's escaping me right now, was done about 5 years ago, and then the second expansion was just done to support this release.
That's crazy, man. So was it hard? You guys are on so many projects all the time, it seems like, not to mention the shirt that Larry's wearing, the System Shock remaster. How did you guys, how did you find time to do this?
We have no lives outside of the game dev world. They don't let us leave these rooms.
Yeah, well, when Bethesda, came to us after Doom 64 and they said, hey, do you guys want to do Quake? We were just like, all right, we had a clear plate.
One of my developers a while ago complained to me about being on 3 projects at the same time, and I didn't mean to be dismissive, but I started laughing, and I said I could work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and not get my pile of stuff down to only 3 projects.
Yeah, we have a saying here at Shacknews, is that we're always going to have a stack of paperwork. No matter how far you try to get that stack lower, someone's going to come next day and give you more. And
that's right.
It works. That's life, really, when you think about it. Talk about how long this remaster took you guys to make. How long was it in development for? A few years?
We started pretty much right after Doom 64 came out. So that would have been, Doom 64 was released at what would have been, GDC 2020. So it was just over a year.
But the discussions actually started at QuakeCon 2019. Myself and a few of our lead developers flew out to Dallas, and we met with Kevin Cloud, and he pitched us on the idea. And yeah, we basically agreed to do it then and there. God,
going out to conventions seems like a remnant of the past at this point. I can't even picture going anywhere anymore.
In the old days.
Yeah. Pre-pandemic, we met people in person and shook their hands, and he said, how would you like to do the Quake remake? We said, sure. Handshake deals and verbal contracts. What's the biggest misconception with this Quake remaster? I know a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, go, it's just Quake with better graphics." You know, like what would you say was the hardest part of just bringing this platform to life on multiple consoles? And
this is without doubt the most complex game in my more than 20 years of being in the industry that I've ever worked on. There were so many moving parts, and what you alluded to, in your initial question about asking about the fans. I mean, there was a ton of playtime. There was a ton of multiplayer testing. I will say, for the majority of people, they will never realize how complicated it was to get the multiplayer and the crossplay working as well as it does in a game of this age.
Not only that, but just the portability of it as well. It uses our Nightdive internal engine known as Kex to power it, and with that, we were able to make it truly cross-platform. I mean, it's on everything. PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch, and you can all play against each other in multiplayer. And yeah, I mean, to Larry's point, it was definitely the most complicated exercise for us to get all that working, along with delivering an experience that was going to be accurate and true to something that came out in 1997.
And then like you even got 60 frames per second on the Switch, which had to have been like an amazing feat on your side. That's something. That's definitely something.
Craig, I'm laughing because thank you for noticing that. Seriously, that's one of the things that is so hard to do, and then fans kind of go, "Yeah, it was pretty smooth."
That took 9 months, and you're like, "You're damn right."
I haven't slept in weeks, with that. So yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of conversations in our channel where Sam specifically is like, I've done all I can, and all I was able to do is shave off 10 frames a second. And we're like, dude, that's awesome. Like, he's like, but it could be better.
And just so that Greg and Sam, that Steve's referring to is Samuel, Kaiser Villarreal, who's a lead developer behind the Kex engine.
That's amazing. Like this whole thing had it was kind of like a bomb being dropped in a good way. Like you're just like, oh yeah, and it's available now. And you're like, wait, what? Right now? It was, I mean, that must've been really exciting and nervous for you guys leading up to QuakeCon after working on this for so long.
So there are a lot of things that we at Nightdive do well. Keeping the projects that we're working on under wraps isn't one of those things. I'm not naming any names, but so that was also a bit of a challenge. I mean, working on something this cool and not being able to tell anybody.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And you guys, you said it's on everything. It's on PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X, and all the Xboxes except for 360, because that's old. Nintendo Switch, and is it on mobile too, or is it just on the consoles and PC?
No, it's not on mobile. That's not planned in the near term. I just want you to know that my heart skipped a beat on that one.
Yeah, did we forget something?
Mobile? Is it on the phones? Like, I don't think so. Because no, you're right. You play to your target demographic, and the people who like Quake play games on PC. Like they do not want to play games on their phone.
PC and console.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where they go. It's just so cool to see. It's turning 25. Is it 25 years? This year? Yeah. 25 years this year. Yeah, because it shares an anniversary with our site to see this game come out and for it to be just released. Like usually there'd be some lengthy marketing campaign or some tease trailer, and then like 6 months of he said, she said, we won't say, and then then a release date. But this just came out of nowhere, and I think a lot of people, especially our community, really do love it on the Switch and on the platform. Just given the option to play it on anything and play with anybody anywhere is a cross-play. I'm going to say again, the fact that we've gotten to work with, and even more than that, gotten feedback from people that are really important to me, in the industry. That's been just overwhelming. Before we go, I gotta leave you a parting thought. There's this old joke about this rabbi. This is regarding keeping secrets about this rabbi. That he's a big golfer. I mean, devotes his whole life to golf. Finally gets a chance to play at this one golf course that's been his life's dream. Problem is that the only date that's open is Yom Kippur.
So he sneaks out in plain clothes, goes out the back door, sneaks out when he thinks nobody's looking, gets on the golf course, starts playing, and he is having just a great game. Every hole seems to be going better than the hole before. Gets up to hole number 18, addresses the ball, hits it, and son of a gun, his first hole in one in his entire life. Starts jumping up and down. A voice comes from heaven and says, "Yeah, who are you going to tell?"
That's a good one. Yeah, nobody.